Hello, I'm Rachel from Douentza Garden in Ireland, and today we're going to visit a different garden. It's a fabulous exotic garden in Howth in Dublin. Now in summer I just love to visit other people's gardens because I always get so much inspiration. My batteries get refueled and I come back with so many ideas of what to do in my own space. Well, I can tell you, after my visit to Medina Garden, I came back with a list of plants to look out for, combinations to try, and pruning techniques to implement. So, let's see this beautiful garden. Today, we're visiting a private coastal garden called Medina, and it has a tropical feel. So this garden specialises in tree ferns, palm trees, bamboos and architectural plants. Now the garden is quite small in size. It's about 1/3 of an acre, which is 1,300 square metres. And in terms of climate, that area roughly equates to US hardiness zone 9B, which means that winter temperatures would rarely go below a minimum of 30 degrees Fahrenheit or -1 centigrade. Now this mild climate allows the owners, Karl and Marcella, to grow a wonderful selection of subtropical plants. This is the entrance to the garden, and we can see already the range of plants that has grown here. From the big leafed Tetrapanix rex to the Canary Island foxglove to lots and lots of echiums. Notice how Karl removes the lower leaves of echiums so that they take up less space in the borders and allow him to use lots of different understory plants. This is called raising the skirts of plants, and we'll come back to that later. The garden is composed of various distinctive areas or garden rooms, each with a different style or feel and a different focus of plants. And there'll be lots of focus on plants in this video, as the garden has a wonderful collection of rare and unusual botanical wonders. Many say that there's something very soothing and calming about a walk around Medina Garden. This is because the garden has a predominantly green palette and relies on leaf shape, contrast and texture for interest. While there are some colourful flowers, most of this garden is carried by the structure of its plants, relying heavily on mature specimens of tree ferns and palms. Tree ferns from Dixonia antarctica and fibrosa to Cyathea cooperi and australis. And palm trees from Trachycarpus fortunei and wagnerianus, the windmill palms, to Chamaerops humilis, the Mediterranean fan palm, and Phoenix canariensis, the Canary Island date palm. Karl has invested in mature specimens of trees wherever possible, so while the garden is around 20 years old, it has a level of maturity far beyond that age. However, for me, a garden like this is anything but calming. There are so many amazing and exciting plants to see that my eye is constantly jumping from one fabulous plant to the next. So, let's have a look at a few of those plants. Here we have Esoplexus canariensis, the Canary Island foxglove, a stately evergreen shrub with orangey flowers. This is Azara microphylla variegata, the box leaf azara, a small tree from Chile that is often confused with the myrtle. It has small, neat, variegated leaves. This is Schefflera taiwanianum, an evergreen small tree in the Aralia family, native to Taiwan, and a fine specimen. Mophead hydrangeas also have a place here, like King George and Masha. They have a compact habit and full globes of dark pink flowers, two of the best red hydrangeas out there. African hemp, or Sparmannia africana, is grown for its large pale green leaves. This is a fabulous specimen, adding a jungly feel to any garden. It's time to visit one of the garden rooms that I mentioned earlier, and this is the Japanese garden. Although a small space, the attention to detail in the stonework, bamboo, and statuary is quite stunning. This section of the garden really does exude a sense of calm. It's shady, and the sounds of water and the bamboo chimes make perfect backdrops to the carefully orchestrated views. I should mention here that Karl doesn't water established plants in his garden. They need to be able to survive on rainwater. However, during lockdown, he confided in me that he did develop a potted hosta collection. So, like everything in a pot, these do need water. This mouth-watering tree is Polylepis australis. It's in the rose family and it comes from Argentina. Karl says he grows it because its peeling bark is superior to that of the better known Acer griseum. This climbing plant is Billardiera heterophylla and it comes from Western Australia. It has tiny, tiny blue flowers. Brasseopsis is a genus of shrubs in the Aralia family from Asia. It's generally grown for its sculptured leaves. Look how that splash of yellow to the left of the bench really catches the eye. This is a yellow variegated form of the Japanese leopard plant. Great for brightening dark spaces. Now we have the Chilean lantern tree, Crinodendron hookeranum. Believe it or not. Normally this large bush is a dense, impenetrable mass and just not to my taste at all. But look what Karl has done with it, removing lower branches gradually to reveal a discreet trunk. This is another example of raising the skirts of trees and bushes, like we saw with the echiums. Now let's take a look at this small shed. It contains a multitude of antique paraphernalia, including cute clay pots and a shears I'm sure my mother had. Another great plant here at Medina is Echium fastuosum, the pride of Madeira. These are the spent flower spikes from a magnificent flowering. Wow, it must have been fabulous. Staying on Madeira Island, we have the tender monocarpic Geranium madeirense, a plant grown for its trunk as it will die after flowering. Kangaroo apple, or Solanum laciniatum, is a super plant from Australia, grown often as an annual for its ornamental dissected leaves. Here, it's a tree. Notice the mangave among this succulent grouping. Mangaves are the result of hybridizations between agave and manfreda. However, as the manfreda genus was later subsumed into agave, mangave is now just a common name for these plants, not a botanic one. You will have noticed that the agaves and the mangave are planted in a very free draining area with a huge rock behind them. Now that rock didn't place itself there naturally. Most of the hard work in this garden has been carried out by Karl himself, who has a great ability to picture things in his mind's eye. Can you believe he used ancient lever and fulcrum methods to maneuver this giant rock into place single-handedly? But he did have the help of his wife Marcella, who threw smaller rocks in underneath the enormous rock when it was suspended. The result is a perfectly positioned boulder. Karl goes to great lengths to ensure his garden looks pristine. When I mentioned how my cordyline trees are now too tall for me to remove all of the dead leaves underneath, he casually mentioned that he uses a ladder to get his. And speaking of evergreen trees, one problem is that they do constantly drop leaves. Karl mentioned how a lot of his time is needed just to continuously pick up leaves. But the garden looks well for it and has been fully mature and visitor ready for some 20 years. Medina Garden is open by appointment from May to September, and if you want to visit then you can contact Karl, and I will put his contact details in the details piece down below of this video. Also a link to the RHSI website where Medina Garden also features. If you are planning on visiting this fantastic place, then why not make a day of it? Ardán Garden is also very nearby, and you'll recall that we visited Ardán about 2 years ago, and I linked the video I made at the end of this. So it's a wonderful day out. Both of the gardens are fabulous, but quite different from each other. So I guess it only remains for me to thank Karl and Marcella so much for welcoming us into their fantastic garden and for allowing me to film. And also thank you to you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this garden visit as much as I did, and that if you're in Dublin at some time during May to September, that you'll consider checking it out. That's all for the moment, except to say that next Sunday you can expect a greenhouses tour video from me, where I give you an update on some of the treasures in my greenhouse. Also, I'll be repotting nepenthes and replanting the permanent exotic border in my glass house. So thank you, and I will see you on the next video. Bye!